enchilada sauce, spinach, and enchiladas today. What you need, some tortillas, enchilada sauce, spinach, onions, cheese, and maybe some peppers. Now, this is a fully customizable recipe. You do not have to use any of the things here. You can make enchiladas however you want. Tonight is just spinach enchiladas for us. So I've gone through and gotten spinach made, or spinach prepped. We'll do enchilada sauce now. We're making enchiladas, spinach enchiladas with green sauce. So the base of it is a homemade fermented jalapeno serrano hot sauce. And that's going to give us our greenish color, which has, sadly, because of paprika, turned into a mud sauce. But first step, we're going to grind up some cumin and Mexican oregano. This is about a tablespoon each. Now, if you don't have a mortar and pestle, you don't have to do it this way. You can certainly get the pre-ground stuff. The pre-ground stuff sucks, but you can use it. You can also grind it up in a spice grinder, or really any other method that's going to grind it for you. Use it by hand and beat it with a hammer. But we're looking for something pretty fine and powdery, something along those lines. I don't know if that's actually in focus. We'll find out when I'm editing. But we're going to use all that, about a tablespoon of each. We're going to put that into our fermented hot sauce along with some paprika. You can use smoked paprika, and chili powder would also go really well as well. Now, it's kind of thick because of using xanthan gum in the fermented hot sauce, so we want to thin it down a little bit. We're going to use a little bit of Mexican Lager, about a tablespoon and a half. And then because beer is pretty thin, we do want to actually thicken it back up just a little bit to give it a different kind of consistency. This is a cornstarch and water slurry. Only going to use a little bit of it. We're actually going to pour off some of the top layer of water to where we get mainly cornstarch slurry. And then about a tablespoon, maybe 2 teaspoons if you're not too heavy in the salt aspect. About a tablespoon of cracked pepper. Give it all a nice mix up. And sadly our color, like I said, has disappeared. But there is our homemade enchilada sauce, super quick style. And it ain't too bad. Alright, so now we are prepping our spinach. We've already got ourselves a nice big bowl. This is a medium size, I don't know the actual standard of them all, and that one doesn't have it on it. So whatever, just a medium-sized bowl. This is going to make us about 6 enchiladas, just enough for 2 people. I like to take off the leaves from the stems, mainly because I don't like the long, hangy, noodle-like aspect that comes from all your spinach stems. You can leave the shorter ones on if you like. It's all personal preference. You like what you like. Also, I find that the stems don't cook as fast as the leaves, so the leaves end up becoming nice and tender, where the stems are still kind of hard and even a little bit bitter. So I just put them all off. Don't throw these away. Put them in a compost bin if you've got it, or put them aside for some veggie stock or chicken stock. Use them. Don't get rid of them. Use pretty much everything you got that you possibly can. You need a ton of greens. Greens wilt and lose all of their moisture, and since greens are 95% water, yeah, you'll need a lot more than you think. We're going with half a yellow onion and half of a red onion because that's what I had in the fridge. So cut them in half. We're just going to give them a nice big cube style cut to them. So cut 1, cut 2, cut 3. This one's kind of small, so we're not even going to cut it in the middle like you would normally. I'm just going to cut it chunk, 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 chunk. Save that for your stock as well. Adds in great stuff. Cut, 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 cut. Turn it over, give it, give it, give it, save it. Throwing everything in a mise en place bowl. And we'll do the same thing with the red onion, but as you can see, this one's quite a bit bigger. Hopefully that's actually in focus and on frame properly. So we'll give this one a couple more cuts than what we would have our yellow, and we'll actually give it a cut across the middle. Roughly, it's kind of like, there's a YouTuber out there, his name's Chef John. He's really fun to watch if you want to actually check out some YouTube stuff. But he has a great saying, pick a size and stick with it. I picked this size just because it's going to reduce down once the sauteing actually happens, and it'll be a nice size in your mouth kind of a thing. But the wife didn't laugh at my joke, so that's fine. Now for peppers, they're a little bit more different than an onion. If you do not have a high quality sharp knife, do it kind of like this. So lay your pepper down on a flattish side you can and follow along with it. The skin tries to resist, so your pepper may not like it. Move it down to its flat side and follow along. The ribs are pretty much what you're trying to get rid of. If you do have a decent sized knife, you can just, or a decent quality knife, you can just start at the top and follow around the membrane as well. So it's however you feel comfortable with your knife and how good your knife is. Seeds and membrane, not really good enough to save for anything, so that one can go in the trash or compost bin. We're going to give these about the same size as our onions. If you do not have a good quality sharp knife, don't cut skin side down, cut flesh side down. It's much easier to cut through the flesh than it is the skin of a pepper. Same thing with a tomato. So we'll give them rough same dice size. Big dice, not an actual dice. You could throw some mushrooms in here. You could throw in some chicken if you didn't want it to be a vegetarian. You could throw in some steak if you had it. Leftover stuff works great. If you have a leftover roasted chicken, you can just shred that apart, throw it in there. It would be fantastic. But we're going simple, veggies, 3 veg, and a whole bunch of cheese. For our cheese, it's best to grate it or cut it cold. So this came out of the fridge about 20 minutes ago. I'm about 3/4 of the way done with my beer, so about 20 minutes ago. It's a nice Mexican lager. Just give it a grate on your biggest box hole portion you can. And you're gonna look, you don't really have a measurement for cheese. It's an eyeball thing. You decide how much cheese you want in your enchiladas. I don't care for non-cheese based enchiladas, so we go pretty heavy in the cheese on the enchiladas. You're more so making a taco or something, some kind of American knockoff of something if you're not going very heavy in the cheese. So we'll grate this down and I'll join you over on the stove. All right, we're looking all right. All right, so we have done some dishes, got another beer, we've got everything prepped. Now we're over medium heat on our stove, ready to start sauteing stuff. I don't have a gas grill, so sadly electric takes a little while to go. Like I said, you could do all kinds of different stuff with this. We've got tortillas. Make sure you get those out to room temperature before you start using them. This is a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, and then we're going to use some grapeseed oil. You can use really any oil. Don't use exclusively extra virgin olive oil for this, just because our temperatures are going to be a little bit high, and you're going to lose a lot of flavor in it, so you're basically just throwing money out the window. This is a beer from New Province Brewing in Rogers, Arkansas. It's their Crypto Pale Ale. It's not too bad. We're not quite at heat yet. Lovely. Love gas stoves. Too bad I don't have one. There's also little things around the kitchen that need to be cleaned up, and I haven't done that yet. So, I don't know what to tell you while we're waiting. We're going to butter and grease our pan. So get your butter out, get it room temp, so that way you can actually spread it around with your hands. We're going to cook at about 350, pretty normal temperature. You don't have to preheat yet. It's going to take us about 10-15 minutes to get our enchiladas actually ready to go to mold and bend and prep. So we're getting there on the heat. This is about 12 inch. They might call it a 14 because of the depth on the outside, but it's about a 12-inch bottom non-stick pan. You do not have to use this. Use whatever pan you have. Right about there. And we're getting a little sizzle. A little low in the heat, but so what? We're not trying to char or anything. We're just looking to get the water out of it, and then also get a little bit of color. And to help speed that process along, we'll add in some salt. If you're looking to really get color to it, don't salt until later. The moisture helps counteract the actual browning and the Maillard reactions that happen in the bottom of the pan. That was about 2 teaspoons of salt. I don't know, I never measure. Just a good pinch of salt is what we're looking at. And I'm a big pepper fan, so we're going to add in about the same amount of pepper. Give it a stir, get the salt, pepper, coat everything, and help bring out the moisture. And basically what we're going to do is stir these about every 2 or 3 minutes and cook them until they're somewhat translucent and ready to go. I'll show you what it looks like when we get there. Alright, so we've been going for about 15 minutes now. This is about the color we're looking at. I'm going to give a terrible low quality zoom in here and focus in on what we've got. So our peppers are getting a little bit of color around the outside. Our onions are starting to turn just a slight amount of translucent around the outside and give it a little bit of brown. Nothing crazy, but 15 minutes stirring occasionally, about every 2 or 3 minutes at a time. Let's put this back down and hope that I can actually get it in a shot that's right. I can't, so I'll be back in a minute. So we had a little extra moisture come out of our spinach, which is fine. Just took it to one side of the pan, squeezed it a little bit, and then wiped it with a paper towel. That way it would actually stay out. We're done with our spatula. So eat an onion out of it and realize your onions are really good. So we're gonna put in, this is like a big spoon. You know, a lot of cutlery things come with small spoon or regular size spoon and a big spoon. Just gonna put in a big spoon at a time until we use all of our ingredients. And it does help to put all of it to one side just for folding purposes. or put as much as you can to one side for folding purposes. And looking at this already, we don't want to go more than this 1 spoon serving. You can do a little bit more than that, but it gets more difficult to fold the more you put in. So we're gonna go with 2, and they're probably gonna start squishing out. But this is the perfect amount for 5, if not, definitely 6. That's a smaller tortilla, so that's probably too much, but we'll get to it when we get to it. And yes, I am using a metal utensil on a non-stick pan. This non-stick pan is really old and has never been the best of non-sticking. So we'll just deal with it in the way that we have it. That one looks to be the biggest, so throw in a little more. And eat a couple more onions. So now, while we were waiting for things to cool down a little bit, we did preheat our oven to 350. My oven's a little slow in preheating, so it's not quite there yet. It'll probably be there by the time I'm done rolling these. Move everything to one side as best you can. What I like to do is lay down with my butter a little bit of enchilada sauce on the bottom. You can use red enchilada sauce, you can use whatever you want. Like I said earlier, it's just, I made some fermented hot sauce and it's really good. So that's what we're gonna go with. And actually, after sitting for a little while, it looks closer to a green enchilada sauce than I originally did. Yes, using your hands is fine. I've washed them, they're very clean. And there's my oven, it's preheated. That's a little bit too much cheese, but grab a little scoop. This looks to be about a tablespoon of cheese per inside of the enchilada. Don't go overboard on the inside too much, as we want to make sure we have some to top it. So again, grabbing a pinch, big pinch, looks to be about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of cheese. Not packed, pretty loose for whatever we've got. Alright, so we've got our cheese, we've got our spinach, we're good to go. Grab one end, fold it over like a half, kind of like a taco you would, but don't fold it and push. Grab the end, bring it towards the filling, so that way the lip comes inside underneath your filling. So that way you can start getting it an actual shape. Give it a roll over, give it a roll over, and then lay it seam side down in your tray. Baking dish, rack, whatever you're using. I think that's a what is that, wife? That's a 7 by 12? That's not the 9 by 14. The smaller one is what? I think that's a 7 by 12 size baking dish. It doesn't say on it? Okay. I'm pretty sure it's a 7 by 12 baking dish. It's a smaller form. It's not your 9 by 14, which is your standard big size one that you would do a cake tray in or something like that. But again, roll it up, seam side down, bunch it together, fold it over. Your hands are gonna get dirty, that's fine. Washing them is very good. Let's continue to wash our hands as much as we possibly can. You want as little of your filling to pop out as possible though, just because it is some pretty good filling that we've spent a decent amount of time making. Enchilada sauce is a little spicy, so it's making my nose run a tiny bit. That's fine. We like the spice, don't we, wife? Yes, we do. She won't say anything. She won't look at you. She won't be on camera. But she'll agree. Alright, we're on our last one. As you can see, it goes pretty quick. This is a nice big cutting board. This is not your standard size cutting board. This is a cutting board that I looked for months to find. My hand's about 7 or 8 inches. That's a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. We're looking, I think it's a 30-inch across cutting board by about 21-inch deep. So we got some leftovers. We'll clean the board. Our oven's preheated. Let's throw some enchilada sauce on it over the top. Not quite all of it because we want to top our cheese. just a little bit with it. So we're saving about a half a cup there. And then let's actually, you know, maybe we should put this in frame. And we're just gonna cover it with our cheese toppings. About the right amount. I would say in the end that was roughly 4 handfuls of cheese. I would call that about maybe 3 cups, not packed. But again, like I said earlier, you don't have to use a specific amount of cheese. However cheesy you want your enchiladas. I like the cheese. Give our hands a wash. And now we're not baking for a specific amount of time. We're just gonna bake until our cheese is bubbling up the side and melty on top. That will probably be somewhere around the 15-minute range. So we'll pop it in and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. By the way, middle of the oven, middle of the rack. Adjust your rack to where everything's in the middle so it melts evenly. You don't want the bottom to burn, you don't want the top to burn. Put it in the middle. All right, we've been in the oven for, what is that? Feels like about 12 minutes now. Enough time to do all of our dishes, wash our hands 6-7 times. And where cheesiness is looking a little melty, we're not quite bubbly yet. So now what we're gonna do is add the rest of our enchilada sauce over the top because we want our enchilada sauce to bake as well as our cheese. So, I mean, it is enchiladas after all. And then we're going to throw it back in the oven until everything is nice and melty. And I realized that my hand went downwards when I did that, so sorry, but here you go. Alright, so our 350 wasn't quite enough to get the top browned on these, so I went ahead and turned the broiler on, and we went for about 3 minutes. But really at this point, it's just give it a look to see how it looks. I like a little extra brown on mine, so the ones that aren't covered in enchilada sauce are going to give a nice crisp to them. But this is what we're looking for. A nice bubbly action, some good color, and our cheeses are nice and melted. This one got a little bit too burnt, but that one's going to be nice and character based. So now we're going to let them rest for a minimum of 5 minutes. Alright, we've been going for about 5 minutes. Give it a nice cut in the middle. Having to watch through a camera lens is not at all weird. Look at the good string we've got going. Make sure they're not sticking, which if we greased properly, which we did, they won't stick. Grab them out. Again, watching through a camera lens is not at all making this difficult. Decent amount of cheese action. Light string, but that's okay. And then grab the rest. Yes, it's an uneven portion, but we'll be okay. And there's your spinach enchiladas. Hopefully this is super easy for you guys to make. Hopefully you can make it, and it'll be a great time for you all. Thank you. We look forward to having you again.